Hello and welcome everyone to our Saturday stream. This is our Fantasy Grounds Unity map and image creation, and I'm Josh. So thanks everyone for joining us today. Um, I hope everyone's having a great week. I'm a little bit under the weather today. I've somehow got a cold, so we'll stream as long as we can today. And if I go quiet, I'm probably just muted, blowing my nose. So um, hope everyone can bear with me this nice afternoon. But we're going to get right into working with the same stuff that we did last time. Oh, that's not the right map. That's one we did a while ago. Here we are. And what we had done previously is we worked through the basic image tools and then how to transition those into a more image-oriented creation process. So what we actually did was we created a very basic map, and this is just done with our base painting tools. These are always available to you, so you can make very functional maps inside of Fantasy Grounds without ever needing to use anything other than the program itself. And we then quickly created some overlay maps, mimicking exactly what we had done previously. In a really simple fashion. This was to demonstrate how you can take any of the images that you might get in any of the other campaigns or any of the other modules that you might be importing into your campaign, and any basic map that you might have access to, you can build right on top of that. So what we're going to do today is we're going to finish up this image, and we're going to go and create all kinds of different areas and environments. And what we've done is used a lot of the different tools in many ways to kind of create exactly the images that we need when we need them. Last time I showed how you can use the fill element to extract any portion of an image that you want. We did that down here with a completely different map. And then we also did that here as well with these little pieces here so that we could fit them perfectly in where we wanted them to. Now this can be done a whole bunch of different ways, and you don't always have to do it that way, depending on what you're actually trying to do and what you're trying to achieve. What I'm going to actually do today is I'm going to show you how you can separate particular types of elements, and it's one of the first things that we'll do today is, and I'm just going to do this for some really basic kind of oh yes, the art subscription. That's always a great tool. So we produce constantly producing more art packs all the time. That's my main focus for Smiteworks for Fantasy Grounds. So I create all the official art packs, and what we actually do there is we have a subscription which is $5 a month or $50 a year. And that is gives you access to everything that we have released and everything that comes out as well, which is new stuff all the time. I believe that we have 30 something art packs or more, and also a few different themes that are included in that as well. Like this one I'm using right now, the Modern Dark theme. And inside of that, in addition to that, I mean, we have thousands and thousands upon images. Some of the art packs, a single art pack alone, can sometimes have hundreds of images in them. So hopefully anything that you need. And if you ever have any suggestions, if you feel as that there's something in an art pack that that you would think that belongs, or if there are additional art packs that you would like to see released, please let us know. I'm always interested in what you guys would like to see, and so we can always try to accommodate that. But before we go any further, I just wanted to go over this. I get questions sometimes. People send me, um, oh, thanks. Yeah, I enjoy it as well. It's one of my favorites. And there'll be more themes coming out eventually as well. We're going through a lot of adjustments in the UI layout. So until that's completely or a little bit more stable, we'll wait to release a lot more themes, but there'll be more coming your way. But what we want to do is, what I want to talk about here first is if we go into our walls and floors here, and there are certain times where you're going to want to have particular elements that are maybe you've created something. Pipes and machinery, that would be in the modern industrial as well as in, there's lots of different machinery parts in the abandoned places as well, but they're more worn down. So abandoned places, think more like Fallout, apocalyptic, and then modern industrial would be all of those elements. And if we can just open up the assets here real quick and kind of go through that. So here we have two art packs that are abandoned places. Um, and here we have like lots of concrete and whatnot. But as I said, you're going to get lots of different bits of debris on them and so on. This is just the first one. If we go into our decorations here, you can see you have all of these things, but they're all kind of corroded and broken down here. Lots of litter and debris and so on and so forth. We have like these cardboard boxes and whatnot, but they all are like covered in mildew and whatnot. If you want more pristine kind of things, and again, there's some additional machine elements as well, as you can see here in the second one. We have all of these air systems and pipes and whatnot, and then we can kind of go through lots of like automobiles, but they're all again like corroded. If we go into the modern industrial ones, and we have three of these, you can see here our brushes are all of these like industrial kind of elements here. We have like framework brushes and so on. And if we go into the next one, here you can see we have lots of pipes. And if you do have the art subscription, if you do have access to these, all you have to do is to type in something like pipe brush, and then you'll get access. And you can see that when you do a little like mouse over, that will give you all that information. It says it's in the industrial map pack 2, and so on. Well, as far as like steampunkish goes, you can certainly use like a combination of the different elements and create pretty much anything that you wish. As far as like there are lots of ones with like big gears and stuff. Um, so here we have lots of like gear elements and so on. But there's nothing that is specifically steampunkish. But that might be something that we could do in the future. Uh, a lot of that kind of mishmash of styles. Steampunk is kind of industrial, but yet has an older kind of flair to it usually, with like polished brass or those types of materials. Great. Yeah, and if you guys have any questions whatsoever, just throw them right into chat, and I'll do whatever I can to answer them. But what I wanted to talk about is that there's a couple of different scenarios where you might have created something, and then you want to separate the two elements. And that's you can do that a couple of different ways as far as this goes here. And I'm talking about not necessarily doing that in the same way that you might want to. So let's say let me give you another example of this. Let's pull up another image. One of the things that I really enjoy about Fantasy Grounds is that you can constantly go back in and tweak images, change things, and interact with that system so many different ways. Oh yes, there is actually still a lot of gauges. So if you just type in gauge, for example, you'll get these, and these are all in, again, like the industrial map pack and so on. But see, these are still very industrial looking, not so decorative as you might see on something that's more steampunky. Let's see here. Well, let's go to another element here. What might be a good one? So we'll actually pull up. Um, Here's an industrial area that was created a while back, and you can see here we have all kinds of different machine elements and whatnot. And let's find one of these. This is the it's just the background here. I wonder if there's any. Let's actually. And here's another good tip for you guys as well. I'm just gonna drag these and put these outside up above this folder. Grab all of these painted layers and drop them right into the folder here. Anything that is put into a folder acts kind of like it's almost as though you've collapsed all of the layers, but non-destructively. That means that you can always go back in and work on them individually. And then you can go in, and anything that is inside of that folder, you can select that folder. You'll have the ability to interact with here. You can see that there's all of these different elements here. And if we go down through, you can see that we have lots of different pieces and whatnot that are separated out. But when we select on the folder itself, we can interact with all of these. We're in the painting tab. These are all painting layers. And we can come in and we don't need to find out what exact layer that we're on. We could move these bits around and do all this stuff independently of what it is. But what we're actually looking at right now is we have, let's say for example, we have some elements here that are all in the same layer, but we want to separate them. And this could be any number of different things here, right? This could be where we have lots of these different elements kind of around. So all we have to do in a particular situation like this is, let's say we have, let's find one that's got some fun interactive kind of elements here. So here we have like the trees and the wires here. We have the telephone poles, like the electrical poles here. And then we have some of the wires that are on top here. And let's say that we want to, and I'm just going to close this down for the moment while we kind of work on this. Excuse me. We want to separate this out. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this layer. Because it's inside of a folder, it's going to put it down at the bottom of the list. But what I can do is I can duplicate this layer, and we can pull this right up on top, right? So that it's here. And this is going to have all of these different elements together here. Now I can hide this other layer, or I can, actually what I'll probably do is, well, we can do a couple of different things here. But where we're actually going to separate the two elements. So what all I'm going to do is in this edit tab is now I can go in and I can, let's say I want to separate all the trees from all the other elements here. And all I have to do is come in here, and now I can delete these, all of these elements. I can even double click on this and delete these. And so all I have left is just the trees. Now I can come back down into here and I can do the opposite. I can select all of the trees. Let's just, we'll just do this a little bit at a time here. So now what I've actually done is I've separated these two elements together. So here we have this one, and let's say I want to make sure that my trees are going to be always above these other elements. So now I can maneuver these around together. So anytime that you interact with a system, you can always go back and change it again after the fact. So where this becomes useful, and there's a couple of different ways that you can interact with this depending on what you're trying to do here. But if you ever wanted to separate your walls from your, yes, you can certainly purchase these outright as well. Yep, you can certainly do that. That's always an option. And what you can actually do is, let's say I have quickly created this whole network, and now I want to be able to put some things above the floor but underneath the walls, which is an alternative way for us to interact with the system. Well, a really easy way to do that in the same exact vein is I'm going to duplicate this. We'll drop this in. I'm going to put this above for right now because let's say I want this level of decor to be below my walls, but I want it to be above. All I need to do, and this is a really simple little trick that you can kind of do here, is let's go into our painting tab. Let's go over to our edit fill, and now all I'm going to do is I'm just going to lower down the opacity. And we have this this went in through here, and so I'm just going to come in here, and we can see this one's this. Yeah, so if we go in here, we should be able to come into this system here. And we want to lower down the opacity. Let's go back over in here. It looks as though... Hey, Drake. Let's have a look at this real quick. Yeah, we should be able to do this very easily. And what we've actually done is we've created a second layer here that's only just the walls. And so if we go into our little area over here, what we can actually do now is if we wanted to, we could move this in underneath these elements. So all I did is I lowered down the opacity of these elements here. And now if I wanted to do something similar to this, now let's go back into our, I'm going to actually just, we can either delete these or we can do this in a completely different way. But what we can actually do is go into our dungeon element here. Let's go into our decorations, and here we have, this is what we were actually using here. And we're going to go into our stamp now, and I could rotate this around. And now what I could actually do, let's rotate it a little bit more, is I could stamp this in at exactly the same spot here. And now it's going to be covered up by my walls. So it's just different ways that you can approach the same scenario here. Instead of trying to do it the way that we did before, and you can see that this is now just this movable kind of object here, which we can still move the other ones around as well because we did it as a fill layer. But we can hide that now in underneath there. We now have a duplicate of all of our walls just by duplicating our walls and floors from before, and then just making all of the floors transparent here. Now I can hide this for right now. We may want to use that at some point, so I'm not going to delete it, but it is so easy to kind of do here. Great. Now let's go into all of these different rooms and start to decorate stuff. So if you guys have any suggestions, let me know. If you think that we should create something somewhere or do something else, yeah, just let me know. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to set up just below my decor area here, or somewhere between, or um, how any of this stuff kind of interacts. We'll probably do it like here. Let's do create another painting layer. And let me just drop this down in above our walls here and below that decor. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my stamp tool and I'm going to grab this one. So if you want this particular brush itself, there's a on the forge there is a module, a map pack that's, I believe it's the 2019 map module, and some images are included in that. So sometimes when I put up these map packs on the forge, which are free, you can get some additional kind of images in there, things that I find that are quite useful but don't really belong in any particular art package. And so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to hold down R, G, and B, and I'm going to lower down. I'm going to go all the way from white to black, and then I'm going to hold down A, and I'm going to lower down my alpha on there. And because I'm underneath this decor layer, I can just kind of stamp in some subtle kind of shadows from these. And we'll just kind of stamp something just like this. And what we can actually do is we can do the same with these pots. Now what I like to do is I like to do these kind of little shadows underneath. And then we'll do an additional, let's put this one's shadow low. And then we'll create an additional painting layer and we'll drop this in and we'll call this one's shadow high. And we can do exactly the same thing. Now I'm going to lower down my opacity of this a little bit. And you can see you can get some really nice kind of shadowy effects here without a huge amount of effort here. Now what I'm also going to do is let's go down onto this lower shadow here, and I'm going to actually turn off my aspect lock ratio, and I'm going to make it taller than it is wide, and we'll do something like 4. I'm just going to angle it a little bit. And we can do something like this. This will just give us a little bit more of that feeling that possibly that this is a step up. And we can do the same kind of thing here. Let's narrow this down a bit more, and I'm also going to make it a bit lighter. And we can do it right along this edge here. And you don't have to worry about it making it too consistent or too. We can come in here. We can make these a little bit more. so they don't spill out onto our elements over there as much. Even this out a little bit. And I think what I'll actually do is go onto this lower shadow. We can go into our layers tab here, and let's click on our tint, and we can actually on all the layer itself, and these are all kind of add together, right? Whatever we do with the image, whatever we do with the layer, they all kind of come together cohesively. So I can lower down this if my shadows are a little bit too intense, and I can adjust it on this level as well. It's just built right into Fantasy Grounds Unity. So you don't need an extension. There's nothing else that you need. It's built right in. So in case anyone didn't see the question was if this was an extension or do you just get this with the Ultimate? And you don't even need the Ultimate license. All of the painting tools, all of the image creation tools are a core feature of Fantasy Grounds Unity. So all you have to do is you go into your image tab over here on the right on your sidebar. And as soon as you create an image, and you can do that a bunch of different ways, but you can just right click right inside of here, or you can come down here and click this button, create a new element, and that's going to open up you the image workspace. We should probably rename this. And what I actually did in the last week's stream. Oh yeah, you're very welcome. Is we went through and we basically we're using images over the top of and what we did was is we created this really simple map just with the base painting tools, which are just if you click on the painting tab, you can just do this with just colors. And then we went over the top of it and I showed how quickly you can adjust it into different images using map packages. And now we're going to decorate this little dungeon that we've made. So we're going to go through this room by room and build up this into like a rather interesting looking environment. Great. So from here on out, excuse me, here on out, what we can actually do is kind of figure out, oh, we have this. This is a little bit off from our grid system. So let's go down into our walls here. And what I'll actually do is I'm just going to grab these and let's move this over a little bit so that we have this nice walkway here, which is exactly the distance that we want it to be here. We're looking at the inside here, and then we can kind of generate all of that stuff as we progress here. Yeah, let's go back into our decor layer 1. And so what we're going to do is we're going to be using these two different decor layers, right, to kind of add in additional kind of elements here. So we should probably put this down. We can probably just get rid of that element from it. And we'll just go back down into here. And what I'll actually do is find some additional stuff here that we can kind of, why don't we actually add in, Let's go to one of the great things that I like to do. We can close down our images now. Let's kind of come back up into here. And I'm actually going to go into the winter art package. And we're going to go into our effects here. We have these nice like snowy kind of effects. We also have like ice cracks and things. But I'm interested in these ones that are just kind of like texture based. And one of the reasons why we want to use white is because the way that the color system, it's additive. Let me just show you what that means. So if I go into, I think I can just type in texture, and we'll get like some of these like scorched earth, for example, right? And if I grab this and I drop this in here, you can see that this is very dark, right? It's already almost black. So if I adjust the colors, here I am getting rid of all the green, and now I'm getting rid of all of the blue, and then finally the red. There's very little change in these colors. I could never make this um, anything brighter than it actually already is. But what I can actually do is if we go back into the winter art package here, is because this is white, I have total control over these colors all the way down. Like I could make it this kind of like green blue, bright green, and if I get rid of all the colors all the way down to black as well. Now I think what I'm going to do is make this a little bit reddish, maybe a little bit. What I'm actually doing here is I'm using the R, G, and B keys and my mouse wheel. This works in the painting tab over here. So I can adjust that and I can hold down A and I can lower down the opacity here. Now one of the things that I like very much is like textures and overlays. And so I use them a lot. And what I can actually do here is I'm actually going to go on to, well, I'm actually going to do this a little bit on beneath here. You can see I'm going to create almost like stains. Now let's make this one a little bit, we can lower down the opacity a little bit more. And I'm holding down Shift and using the mouse wheel to rotate. And I hold down Control and the mouse wheel to change its size. And you can see I'm going right over the top of some of these pots and things. And you can see that that's going to really help break up. We can use some large ones and lower down that opacity and do some nice like subtle changes in the way that this works here. And I'm going to increase the red on this and lower down its opacity a little bit more. And we can kind of stamp this down here. That's going to give us some nice little color variations. And it's going to allow us to, let's lower down, let's make this a little bit darker down here. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to kind of stamp this over some of these areas. Again, let's increase the green a little bit. So these almost feels like patches of like mold or mildew, something that kind of brings a little bit more out here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to grab this guy again and go back into my shadows. And I'm just going to darken up some of the shadows that are coming off of these guys. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make this a little bit oblong. Let's make it more than that. And see, I want to do a little bit of shadow that's kind of coming off of there. Great, very cool. Now let's move on. Do you think that we should do any sort of decorations in this hallway, or what else do you think we should do? Also, while we're kind of thinking about that, let's jump into here. And what I'm actually going to do is make sure my fill is off. And we have some nice I'm going to do some, yeah. We have this crack brush, and this is actually from the cemetery art package. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this right in here. And I'm going to lower this, make this a little bit smaller here. And we can drop down onto our decor once again. And what we can actually do is I can draw out some cracks here. Maybe we'll run that right to there. And what I can come back in is I can adjust this and line that right up perfectly here. This is Fantasy Grounds Unity. Yep. Nope. Everything that we're doing here is right inside of the program. And I can make this a bit smaller and maybe do some additional kind of cracks coming off. You might even want to make it a little bit darker here. Oh, thanks, Tiger Blue Eyes. Great. Now let's go on and continue moving into these other areas that will be adding into. And you can see how well that this begins to take shape. Everything starts to feel much more cohesive, kind of in line with what we have down here. It has layering, it has lighting effects, line of sight, effects layers, all sorts of things. Yep, so if you look over here, you can see all of our different layers. We can organize them into folders. And what we've actually done here is let me just turn off this folder that's got all these layers in it. And then I can turn off this one. We created a very basic one just with using image fills. And then we built on top. I showed last week how you can quickly create different alternatives right on top of other elements that you have. And then now we're going in and we're going to kind of flesh out this little dungeon area that we have here. So let's look in here. We have this nice little room in here. Maybe what we can actually do. Let's go back in and go to our floors here. And let's just adjust this a little bit. I'm going to just move this down so that that wall is going to line right up with my other elements here. I'll even move this back a little bit so we have a perfect number of squares in here. Do you guys have any suggestions on what we should put into this room? Maybe we should make this a cell. We could do like a little gated door here. Maybe put a skeleton in here. Why don't we do that? We could do some chains on the floors and whatnot. So while working with our layers, even though that we have lots of control over them and how they interact with the system, what we can actually do here, especially if we're thinking about it from many different perspectives, is we're going to kind of work from the floor up here. So let's just type in chain brush, and we'll grab this. And maybe what we'll do is we'll make it a little bit bigger here. And again, what I'll do is I'll just kind of draw out some chains. And I can bring this back in. We can switch over here, and I might want to line this right up with the wall here. No, the tokens are always on the top layer. And we'll do something like this. Now let's go into the dungeon art pack. I think most of the things that we're going to want for this is going to be in here. So let's go into our decorations here. We have lots of like bones and things. So let's grab some of these things and we'll start to drop some of the stuff in here. Oh, you can do overhangs and roofs and stuff, but there's the token will never be hidden by them. Let's put this right on this wall over here, and we'll grab one of these rather unhappy looking skeletons. We'll grab something like this. Maybe we'll put this guy like over here in the corner. Excuse me, I had to mute for a second and blow my nose. As I said, I'm coming down with a cold, so and let's grab like maybe we'll do like this kind of door. I think what we'll actually do is make it like 1.2, just kind of cover this area in here. Oh yeah, we can do mist, fog, all sorts of very interesting kind of things. That's a little bit too large. I'm gonna just grab that, delete it. Let's do like 1.1. Yeah, that'll be good. We might want to even go down. We can go into a lower little area down here. And maybe we want to do like something on the floor. We could either do like dirt patches or um, other elements like that. Let's go with, I think we'll go into the 2019 art pack. And in our tiles here, we can go over, let's turn off our stroke and go to our fill. And I'm going to grab this element here. I'll actually go into my line tool. I'm going to go right onto my walls and floors here, and I'm just going to draw out a little bit of a dirt section here. You can see we're going to get some interesting kind of interaction here underneath. And I'm going to hold down R, G, and B. We'll darken this up a little bit. And I'm going to hold down F, and I'm going to fade out the edges here a little. I'm also going to hold down Control and use my mouse wheel and lower down the size of that so you can see we can get some nice texture in here, something like that. We can also move around that texture, and I might even lower down the opacity of it a little bit here. We can actually go in and we can grab some elements. We can move this around. And we can even, if we want to, we can grab all of this and we can simplify the geometry here into its simplest form to give us a little bit more ease in controlling this. And again, I can go back into my edit my fill area here, and let's make this even a little bit darker, maybe something like this. And I think that's still a little bit too intrusive. So we might want to, I might actually make it a little bit more, or a little bit closer to kind of bluish that we have going on here. Something like that. Very cool. Now again, I can go back into my shadow areas here, and I'll go back into my stamp tool here. I'm just going to grab this little guy, and again, I'm going to hold down R, G, and B. And then I'm going to lower down the size here by holding Control and using my mouse wheel. And then I'm going to also lower down my opacity. And I'm just going to stamp in a little bit of shadows underneath some of this stuff. And then I'm going to go into this higher one, and I'm going to make this a little bit oblong and lower down my opacity a little bit more. And we'll add in some additional kind of elements. You see that this will feel like it's, and I might even do a little bit, let's make this a little bit larger. We might want to make this feel a little bit more claustrophobic in here, or a little bit darker and damper. So we could grab some of this stuff, kind of add in some additional little elements in there. Now what we can do is we can go back down to our decor layer 1, and where we started to use this, we can actually just grab this, and we can grab that image that we were using before already. And now we can add in some additional kind of grime in here. So one of the great things that we can do is once we've used an object like, let's say for example, these pots and whatnot, I can grab those at any time by just using this sample settings here. And not only is it going to grab that image, but it's also going to grab any adjustments that I made to it, any alpha changes, any color changes, size, rotations, all of that stuff. It's really great for using like these fill elements as well. Now what we actually have in here too is we're using a adjust colors layer to do this little bit of ambient occlusion around the outside. So let's go in here and let's make this a little bit darker as well. Maybe something like 42. And what we're doing is we're actually, as you can see, we can show it very crisp, but we can blur that out in addition to that. We could even add in some color information to this and so on. And this can add in a lot of really cool kind of features. Now, we had a question earlier about mist or fog or whatnot. So we can do that super easy as well. Maybe we'll add in a little bit of mist on the floor here. What we can actually do, and this is a really easy way to add in this information, is we can go to this this layer where we have these painted elements in here, and then we can add an FX layer using that painting layer as a mask. So it'll only be into these particular areas here. But we can also create our own mask. So maybe we just want to have like a little bit of mist in this this room and have it kind of fading out as we move through here. So let's go up here. Let's create a new effects layer, and we're going to put in. Let's actually use clouds. You can see here we have some nice rolling clouds across the environment here. And we're going to create a new. Nope, we didn't want to hit that button. We're going to create our new mask here. We're going to enable a mask. And then I'm just going to draw out, let's say I don't want it to be enabled in here. Now this is all layer based as well. So I can actually drop this down. Let's do this underneath our shadows here. So it's going to be down through here. You can see that this is a little bit too much for us. So we can just lower down that element here. We also have like darker elements that we can do. And then we can blur out those edges as well. So it's just going to come down to about there. Let's actually increase that. Let's drop our speed down to something like 52. So the way it works is at 50, it's just at the halfway mark, right? That would make it completely stationary. And we should actually probably put this above this decor layer, right? We want it to go over some of this stuff. But under some of these other ones. Actually, let's put it all the way up. And what we'll actually do here is we can kind of hide areas, and we could remove some of these elements so it looks like that these are kind of poking up out of. And we can change the offset of, we might even want to do it something like, let's increase that to maybe something like 55, and we can get some nice kind of rolling elements there. We can also switch it over to mist. And again, the speed is exactly the same way, so at 50, it'll be right in the middle. But I think we should go with clouds. Another way that you could achieve something similar here is we could go into our water, for example. And here we have like ripples and whatnot. Let's get rid of that. The droplet effect here and lower down our intensity. You can see what it does. It creates this like soft like undulation inside of here. And what we can actually do is we have some nice like fog textures or smoke and whatnot. And you could actually paint these in addition to this. So if we were to, and I'm just going to do this for demonstration purposes, let's go into our little area over here. We have like these, but I think I'm going to grab some of this stuff and we go back into our painting tab here. And we can drop this down under here. And let's go over into this tab, our layers tab, lower down that opacity. And we can kind of paint in these elements as well. You might even want to use something like where we can adjust this stuff. You can do lots of cool kind of effects in here. I think we'll let's move down to here, and we'll delete that for right now. Yep, you can do light flickers. You can do all of the lighting effects and whatnot. Yep. We have a full dynamic lighting system, line of sight and everything. And everything gets one of the cool things about painting out these areas and doing this stuff is that you can actually generate all of the line of sight with just a click of the button. So as we've painted all of this out, all we have to do is come into here and duplicate all of this, and it will. Then we have some additional elements in here. So what we can actually do is, if we go into this tab again, let's go into our painting tab and over here, and we can select all of these elements, just the walls themselves, and then we can just duplicate selected as walls. And you can see once we come in here, oh, we got some strange geometry there. But normally this will just duplicate all of that perfectly for us. So if we go into our base, for example, here, and you can see we can go back into our area here and generate all of that stuff perfectly for us. Great. Now let's go back into our painting of some of these areas here as we kind of move through here. One of the things that we should probably do is maybe put some torches on the walls or lanterns. So maybe we'll do something like this. Or these are the ones from the dungeon art package. These ones are from Desert Ruins. Why don't we go with something like this, actually? And we'll go into our... And this will add a little bit more color to our areas here. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to hold down Control. That's going to snap me to the grid system. And once we get all of our elements kind of done here, we'll switch back over and do all of our lighting and everything as well. And you can see here if you want to make sure that everything's always lined up properly, all you have to do is switch back over, and you can grab this image and move it over. It looks like it should be maybe something like this. And then we can come back in and begin to paint some more of these around as well. Maybe we'll do a couple out here. And we can also just kind of flip these around if we need to. What do you think we should do with this little area in through here? I think I'm going to come back in and let's go back into our walls. Let's widen this out a little bit. Yeah, that should work better. Trying to keep in mind our squares here so that we have a good access to everything. You see that this is a little bit off here. So we can just grab these two and move that down. Maybe we'll move that up a little bit just so that we have perfect squares that we can kind of move inside of here. Oh yeah, we can do like a little guard station down here. let's go into our, or you know what else we could do in here? Like make it like a torture room. And then maybe we'll do like a little guard area out through here. Or maybe the guard's here. Or we'll make this a torture room. So we'll do like a little guard area in through here. So let's go back into our dungeon art package. And here we have like wooden bed frames, lots of boards and whatnot. We also have tables and things like stocks. All of the classic kind of things that you might expect in the typical type of dungeon area. So let's go into our decor one here. We'll grab, do we have any like chairs or stools in this? Just a torch chair. No, so let's just go back up. Let's just grab a couple of chairs first. We'll use something like this. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to change this color a bit. Let's make it like some sort of like let's, yeah, maybe something like this. And now we can go back into our dungeon art package here. Let's grab a table. And we can, let's grab some of these candles. We'll add some other elements here. What about like a book? And we can add some cups. We gotta have a couple that are like knocked over. Let's do a simpler cup than that, I think. And then maybe we'll do like a key. Great. And we can do like a weapon rack. Let's do one that is just has like a couple of swords on it. like this one. And what I'll actually do is make this a bit narrower. Let's flip it so the handles are towards the table. Put it like here. And now we can go back in. We can go into our shadows. Let's just grab our shadow again. I enjoy putting in these little kind of elements like this. Hey, J-Rock. And we can do some little shadow elements on this stuff. We may even want to put in a little bit of extra like shadow in the corners here. Let me make this one a bit oblong. Ooh, sci-fi escapes on the stream? We haven't. Not for a little while. But we can certainly work on some sci-fi stuff. Oh yeah, we could do some sci-fi stuff. Great. Now we've added in some additional kind of elements through here. Things are starting to make a little bit more sense as we move forward. Excuse me. So let's go. Let's continue down here. We should do one of the things that we want to do is to maintain some sort of continuity between different elements here. What we can actually do is like work in some additional kind of stuff here. I'm actually going to go make this a little bit more. Is that still going on, J-Rock? Oh, I thought it was pretty much resolved, but I know that a lot of people are just displeased with that whole event. Now what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go back into this area here, grab this again, but I'm actually going to make this a bit darker, something like this. I'm going to go into, do we put that stuff there? No, so we can put it right on here. I'm going to kind of go over this whole area here. Let's lower down the opacity a little bit. You can see that's just going to give me variations in texture and color across all of this stuff. One of the things that that kind of does, understatement, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think anytime anyone tries to do something purely for greed, it's never probably a good idea. I think that everyone should get compensation for their efforts, but when your effort is completely just for monetary gain, it tends to not have the outcome that one might expect. Or I guess one should expect that type of outcome. And so what we can actually do is we can come back in here, and again, we can just grab this, and we can pick this right back up again. And let's flip it to this side, and we'll put in a little light right over here. And then we'll make this our little torture room down here. Which I think what we'll do is I'm going to make, actually we do have some blood, splatters and whatnot. I think we'll lower down the opacity of some of this. I think we'll just stick with like a little bit of blood here. I think we can get away with using similar texture a couple of times. Um, Maybe we can put this like on a table or something. Yeah, it should be cool. I've always enjoyed other systems more than D&D anyway. Never been super dedicated to a particular tabletop RPG. Now let's go back into our dungeon art pack. What we'll do is we'll put a little like shelf over here. And we can grab our torture chair. Let's put it like here. Yeah, it should be like center of the room. See, we can kind of do something like this. Making it look very ominous. Oh, is it really? What kind of game is it? As far as like, is it I know that for a while there, those Kickstarter was inundated with a lot of board games. Let's put stocks like here. I think we'll do it something like this. And maybe one. Yeah, let's just do the one. And then we have some cool cages. We'll do like one here. And then we can do one that's open. Maybe something like that. Actually, let's move that over like here. Oh, that's kind of cool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a combination of these other, like, more finished kind of blood textures. And then and I can kind of layer this over some of this stuff. We might even want to put some like on the table here. Oh yeah, Savage Worlds is super fun. it has some fun dice mechanics without it being too much of a not it's not bogged down by rules as much as certain other things, so it's kind of free flowing, which can make things very fun. Great, and now what we can actually do is let's go into we can grab some of our shadows here. We'll do some shadow stuff, and then we'll add in all of our different tools and whatnot on the tables and things. Yeah, exploding dice is fun. I agree. I think that in the interior map pack too, there's a lot of different things that we could put on here. Go into our decorations. Make it a little bit darker. And then we can have one kind of stuck into the board over here. Some tongs. We've got to have some tongs, right? These ones look like good torturer tongs. Alrighty, well, why don't we take a short little break here? And we're just about halfway through what I normally run. I'm going to try and go the entire time today. I am a little bit ill, so we'll see if we make it the whole way. But I'm going to take a quick break. I'm just going to stretch my legs and refresh my beverages. And then I'll be right back. So just hang out for just a few moments, and I will return. We'll finish up the rest of this map here. So just hold on, please, and I'll be right back. All right, and I'm back. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. We're going to continue on our creation process. I think what I'm going to actually do at this point is let's go back into our dungeon art pack, into our brushes here. Let's go back into our chain brush here. We'll go back, make sure our fill is off, go to our stroke. I'm going to do some like chains that are kind of just hanging around. So we can kind of do some stuff like this. Make some larger ones. I think we'll take this one out. That one's a little bit too large, so let's get rid of that one. This one's a little bit wonky too. We'll move back over into here. Howdy there. And we can go down onto the floor here. Might even want to go actually on the floor itself. Yeah. Maybe what we should do too, because we have this one, we can go down onto here. And let's go into our decor. Just like that. Let's actually flip it this way. And we can go into what else do you think we should kind of put around here? Let's do some more dirt on the floor over here. I'm going to go down into this area. We have some dirt kind of mounds here. Going to lower down the opacity quite a bit. Even more. Just stamp out some little areas in here. Maybe even do a little bit down on this side. And you know what we should do? Let's go into our underground art package here. We'll grab some of these mushrooms. Maybe we'll make them like this kind of like dark blue color, or maybe we'll make them a little bit more like aqua colored. And then we can go on to our decor area here, and we'll grab. I'm actually going to grab this hexadecimal code, and we'll do some that are a little bit at an angle here, and we can match that up. We'll do some that are like yeah, like that. Definitely starting to get some character in a lot of these areas. We can go down into this shadow area here. And we'll just put a little bit of a separation there between these elements. And that's what we're really using. We're not really trying to create like true shadow representations. We're using it as a tool to help create contrast between elements so that we can have a good a separation between these elements and what's underneath. And that's going to make it clearer to us when we quickly view this as to what's really kind of going on here. It also adds a little bit of more visual complexity, which you kind of pick up on little cues about really what's kind of going on here. Awesome. Now let's move on into. Oh, should we do anything in these hallways? Let's do something. We have some wall kind of decorations here. We'll do something like this. Oh, we don't want it to be there. Yeah, that would be kind of cool. Oh yeah, we can do all kinds of different stuff like that. J-Rec, that's right. We can do secret doors that are interactable, all kinds of cool, interesting, more immersive kind of map making stuff. All right, so what do you think we should do with this room now? We have this kind of hidden kind of grove almost out of the circular area. I think we should put a statue in this room. We don't want it to be on that level. We should actually let's change its color here a little bit. I'm actually gonna not this one, this one, and then we'll make it a little bit brighter by holding R, G, and B. And that will fit our stuff here a little bit better. And now what we can actually do is go back and let's do We can do, oh, we could use these again. Kind of coming out, something like this. Like a rounded platform that's kind of raised, or we can actually probably just use, this one has a little bit of a front element to it. We can make this larger. It's a little bit wonky. Let's just use the same element again. And we should also change it here. We should flip it. So that we don't get too much of the same kind of repeating patterns here. And then we can do shadows. Like this. That's a bit too dark. And I'll make this one oblong. And I'll even do a little bit on the front here. And what we can do is we can actually add let's do like a bowl. And we could do, let's do some coins. Let's do like this. We can kind of scatter some other things around here. Whoops. Yeah, we can grab like a column. And again, I'm going to change the tint here a little bit. And we'll make it a bit lighter. That looks cool. I like that. We can move these ones, excuse me, a little bit better like that. And we can go also add some shadow on these. And we should include these in our shadow elements here. Perfect. Maybe what we can do is create. Oh, we should make this like a puzzle room. What do you guys think? We could do different, like a little square section down here. See here, this is where I accidentally am typing into chat while I'm trying to do my adjustments. What we can actually do is type in floor here. Probably more specifically, we should do tile. Excuse me, I had to blow my nose there really quickly. Let's do tile floor. So we could use something like this. Or maybe something like this. This one. Let's use this one. Turn off our stroke. We'll go into our fill with our rectangle. I'm going to hold down Control. Rather interesting. And we can pull out a section like this. And what I'll do is I'll go into here and we can change its size here. And that should work pretty good. And what we'll also do is change its color here. To something that's going to kind of fit in. And now what we can do is we can throw maybe some different symbols or whatnot on here. Let's see what we have. If we go into our crest art pack, Let me think how we could. What we can do is make these. We can use different symbols here, I think. Let's do this on our own layer here. What I'm thinking what we could do is just make them black, and then we could lower down their opacity. That's not going to work in that state, but we have our GM symbols as well. Let's go look at those. Yeah. Oh yeah, we can do this. Perfect. What we can actually do here is make further adjustments if we want. Make it more subtle. We can also do additional kind of elements like that. So one of the things that you could do in this type of scenario is if you wanted to well, if we want to remove that crown, we could do it without the opacity changes. But that's all right. It'll be okay for right now. What we'll actually do now is go back into our decor layer. Excuse me. Come into here, and we're going to grab some of this stuff here. And we will add some additional kind of inconsistencies here. We also have these little cracks that we added. So we can do the same thing there. Grab this crack, come down. You know, that one's a little bit too small. I think we need to make it a little bit darker as well. And we can lower this down like this. Yeah, exactly. And I think what we'll do is we'll make some lighter patches like this. But you can see how using some sort of texture overlay can really add in quite a lot of cool elements to this. Oh, right, a couple of blood, or like some scorched things or something. And we might even want to put in some, like some corner elements here. So if we go back into the dungeon, we'll grab this guy. You see here we're a little off on our these elements. So we can just grab this, open that up a little bit. Yep, we can do some blood stains and maybe we'll make that a little bit lighter. I guess it's pretty good the way it is. All right, well, I think I'm gonna call it here for today, guys. Do you guys have any other questions that you might have? Or is there anything that maybe I did today that I didn't explain thoroughly and you would like to have some further clarifications on? Well, that's a tricky question, Pete Bog. It depends on how you're setting it up. And we might have something that we've worked on in the past here. Oh, we have here. We created this ship a while back when Spelljammer first released. And here we have, you can see down into the hull here. So what I did was I separated them all into folders here. So here we have the top and we hide this and then you can see the interior here. Yeah, no problem. Um, and here let's just turn off some of our effects here because we have like line of sight and stuff going on here. So here we have the top of the map. You can kind of see down in here. And then once you go down in, we have this. And then we have another layer that is below here. Which, let's see if we get this. Yeah, so you would come into here, and then you would go down, and then these steps continue down through. Or you could go into these areas. It looks like some of this is a little bit off, though. Not sure what this door is doing out here. Yeah, so you can put everything together in a folder. Looks like that there's supposed to be like a wall here, but I'm going to assume that that's part of a. Not exactly sure. We might have changed something and I inadvertently didn't do it correctly. But here you can kind of see into like these different areas as you kind of progress through. Yeah, what I'm assuming is we had a wall here. That doesn't seem to be there anymore. Let me see. Let's open this up. Well, either way, so you can kind of set things up this way, but you can also do them to the side. And the difference between the two, which you really want to pay attention to, is if you're going to have lots of line of sight. Because if you're going to do lots of line of sight, you want to set them up next to each other. I think if we go to like this one will be a good example, I think, of how those systems will kind of interact in a different way. So here's a map that we made a long time ago. This kind of beach. We did like a little entrance into a cave, and rather than putting it so that it transitions, we built the cave over on this side. The reason for that being is that if your line of sight is based off of the position on in the actual workspace in here in the image workspace. So if we go, let's grab our combat tracker here, and we'll grab our buddy here, and let's enable our line of sight and everything. So here we have our guy, and we would cut this off so that he wouldn't really be able to see. But as he transitions over here, it's not going to affect the line of sight. Let's say he goes into this cave, and now we're going to bring it in here. Now it's going to affect our line of sight. and we can just drag and drop him right over in here, and he can explore this. And then as he leaves the cave, we can just transition him right back over. And if he's up here, there's no effect on the line of sight as it transitions back and forth. Now, obviously, if you're not using something that has a lot of line of sight to it, or it's got the same kind of line of sight, then when you're doing something like that, like this ship, then we don't really have to worry about it so much. Oh, that's a bridge. There was another one that we just recently did. We should turn these back on. We did this riverboat, and here we have. Here's the riverboat. Yeah. So we set this up, and what we did is we did this transition down below, and then in below we also have our water set up in here, so we could turn our water off and do additional kind of things like that. Your line of sight can be attached into those particular areas. So yes, you're yes and no, right? But it's the memory of the character's line of sight that you need to account for. So here we have this like this riverboat, right? That's crashed, and we did like a breach in the hull, and all of this is able to be removed. And we did a lot of this with our lighting system. I don't think that we did any line of sight on this. So you don't, if and here's the interesting thing too. Is that you can. Um, so here we have our kind of we never finished this. I'm going to finish this in a dish at some point, but here we have our main deck, and if you went down, you can just remove this main deck and go right down into here to the below area. And then we have these systems kind of set up here. So if we were in this main or this below area here, and here we have our walls, right? So we can go into our walls, and we can create our line of sight for that. And we can put this because here we have a door, and then we put our door in. But let's drag and drop this right into our below area, which means when we hide that, we also hide that line of sight. But while this is active, um, it will create that line of sight. It's gonna use everything that's seen to create the line of sight, which isn't that big of a deal if we are using the same shape over and over again. But if we're not, we're going to want to make sure that we have everything kind of together. So if you're going to be using line of sight, it's better to do them next to each other. So you'd have the inside of the ship over here somewhere, and you'd have it blocked off in your line of sight so that you can transfer when somebody's going downstairs. You can grab them and transfer. And I can let me show this. Let's just delete that line of sight. So I can show this a little bit better here. We have oh, I'll just grab. Hold on, let me just go into our assets. If we go into the interior map pack, we have some already done maps here. So we'll create an image record. And this already has its line of sight all done in it, right? And then what we can actually do is let's grab the first floor and we'll drag it. Now we could, this will all line up in actual time, like to the spots that it's supposed to. But what we want to do is we want to put them next to each other, right? We could do it with all of the different. And we can go into our line of sight and it's going to show us everything, right? All of our doors, everything that's kind of created here. And the reason we want to do it this way in this type of scenario is we're going to be jumping between floors. You can have players on different floors, and you don't have to mess around with any of this. So let's now open up our combat tracker once again. And we'll start off, and we can actually encapsulate all of this in our line of sight if we so wish. Let's see, yeah, we'll turn this on. Let's turn off lights so you can kind of see what I mean here. Let's say we're on the outside. You see he's going to see all of these other things out here. But let's turn off our player view and this is the only one where they're going to actually be outside. So we'll just drag a thing right around the outside there. Now let's go back into our play mode. We'll grab this. We'll make sure we're looking at all of these things. And let's reset his visibility here. So as we're, going around the outside of the building, and we can go inside. Oh, we gotta open up both of these. And now let's say he's going to go upstairs. So me as the GM, I can just grab him, bring him right over here. Holding down shift, you can kind of do that. Now this guy is going to be upstairs here. We can go back into our party view. He's going to remember the downstairs. So he'll have an actual visual reference of the downstairs. And it won't interfere with his exploration of the upstairs. And there could be other players still downstairs or above or whatnot, but he'll have no information about what else is kind of going on. So depending on the scenario, it's going to depend on if you want to stack it or if you want to put them next to each other, or maybe have two completely different maps altogether. But if I hide this layer, he's not going to be able to see it until I bring it back. Hopefully that helps clarify that a little bit for you. So as you said, these are all, the line of sight is attached to these particular layers. Yeah, you're welcome. And don't forget, even if you've built something, right? So if we go back to, let's go back to that. Once you've built something, you can still move it all over to the side. So here we have like this ship, right? I can grab the entire ship top here, and because it's all in one layer here, I can grab this and not that part, but I can just grab it and move the whole section somewhere else if I want to. Yeah, there's oh, it's gotten pushed underneath somehow. That's what's done. That's what's happened. So even if you want to build something on top of each other, you can move it later and without a problem. The only time that you want to be concerned is if you're going to be rotating it, and then things, any stamped image will maintain its orientation when you rotate it. So sometimes it's not what you might expect. All right. Is there any other questions that you might have before we call it for today? Also, thanks everyone for hanging out with me this afternoon. I really appreciate it. I always very much enjoy these streams. So, and if you guys have any suggestions or if there's anything that I can ever help you with, please feel free to just let me know, and I'll do whatever I can. And so maybe this next week we'll start on a sci-fi map. That does sound fun. All right, guys. Yeah, well, you can still do that, right? Like you can have several. You can just duplicate your images and separate it for practicality. Yeah, that sounds fun, Svenster. We'll definitely get in there. So while you're working, anything that you have duplicated, you can even duplicate the entire folders. So if we're looking at, let's grab something here, something else here. Here we have like this Eastern kind of building here, and here we have. Oh, these are just painting layers. Let's find something that's got some good folders in it too. Well, I guess we can. Let's go back to this since we were already using that. I can just duplicate this ship top, or if I wanted to, I could have all of these different elements all together, just like that you'd expect. And I can even grab all of these and duplicate them. And what it'll do is it'll create a duplicate of all of them together. The order here has been changed for some reason, but we just have to. But as you can see, you can duplicate all of this stuff. And if we go into our tab here, I could move all of this over. We've also the thing that won't move is effects layers. You'll have to redo like where you've done your effects layers. But besides that, all of it is it's completely able to be duplicated. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, and I'll be back this next Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and I try to run till just about 6, and so we'll be back on that schedule. So hope everyone has a great week, and we'll see you all next time.